Yo, what is good people? Welcome back to my channel. I am Kizawa. What are you saying? Thank you for tuning into today's video. Thank you for all your support on the video that we uploaded a couple of days ago, the golden rule of DJing. We talked about mixing in phrase. Really appreciate all the support on that, all the comments, all the likes. Thank you for watching that video. One thing that video did spark up though was a lot of debate. I got quite a few messages of people asking me, what about mixing in key? People were saying that although mixing in phrase was a very important thing, people were thinking that mixing in key is kind of up there with one of the main rules that you should follow. And I think that it's a very good discussion point. I think that it's a very kind of good debate to have in the DJ scene. Today we're going to be discussing mixing key. First of all, exactly what it is, and then we're going to be moving on to why mixing in key, why I don't think mixing in key is a very important thing. At least it doesn't have to be anyway. And then when the best time is to mix in key. Okay guys, so now we're going to discuss what exactly mixing in key is, or what it means. So as you can see here, I have the Camelot key wheel. Now this is basically it's a harmonic system. It's how songs are determined, what note they are. So when a song is produced by a producer on a computer or by a composer on a piano, they stick to a certain set of keys. Now the reason why they do that is because they fit harmonically together, so they sound pleasing to the ear. Now if you can see the wheel here, now each key kind of, you know, has keys around it. Okay, so the idea of mixing in key is that you have a key, let's say F sharp major for example, 2B. So the idea is when you mix in key, you either mix that exact key, you mix the key or either of the keys next to it, so you can go 2A, 1B or 3B. Now what I will say about this is that this can be a very good thing for your sets. If you are mixing in key often, your sets will sound very good to the ear. Your mixes will be very kind of smooth transitions, just because people will they won't be able to hear a clash of noises that don't sound good together. Now I'm going to be showing you some examples in a minute of tracks with different keys and tracks with the same keys, and showing you exactly what you should or shouldn't be able to hear. Right, so now we've come over to Rekordbox. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some examples. I'm going to give you some examples of me mixing tracks into each other that are the same key, and I'm going to give you some examples of tracks mixing different keys together, and I'm going to let you decide for yourself whether you think mixing key is important or not. So what I have here is a track called Get This Party. What we're going to do is we're going to drop this track. Now if you watched the video I made a couple of days ago, you will know all about mixing in phrase, or at least you should have an understanding of it. So mixing in phrase is coming up to this point in a moment. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we're hoping for here anyway, these two tracks are very similar in key. We're hoping for a nice smooth transition. Now, of course, what I've just done there is just mixed for a pretty simple mix from one track into another one. But hopefully what you deciphered from that situation was that because these two tracks are a very similar key, that the transition was quite smooth, that although these two tracks have very heavy kind of melodic sounds to them, that they didn't clash too much and that they sat quite well together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix two tracks that have completely different keys. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got one of the tracks that we just used, which is an A, and I've got a new track, which is a G. So these two tracks, technically speaking, should sound very bad together, okay? So I'm going to play track 1, and then in phrase, of course, you know how it is. When we get to the breakdown, I'm going to click play on the next track. So, as you can see there, I mixed the breakdown of one track into the breakdown of another track. Both tracks, very different keys. I think one thing that we should take from this one in particular is that the transition was not too dissimilar to the first transition we made, even though the tracks were in key together. And that is going to support my point that I'm going to make in a moment. Alright lads, now that I've shown you both an explanation of the Camelot key wheel and I've given you a demonstration of exactly how key works in the mix, what I'm going to do now is give you my opinions on key, and I'm going to give you my general rule on key, okay? So first of all, what I will say about key is that although key is a very good thing to have, and key is a very good thing to learn and understand and hopefully implement into your mix, it is definitely not the be all and end all of your mix. Key should be a factor when coming to a mix and deciding what track you put in next, but key should never be the #1 rule. If there is a track that you think the crowd or the people in the club would enjoy, you should always try and mix that track in over a track that is in key. Because although key is harmonically sounding to the ear and that will give you a nice smooth transition, if it isn't what the people want, then there's no point mixing that track in. Now, one thing I will say is that of course, it can be harder to mix a track together when they're both opposite keys. Now, if you know two tracks for opposite keys and they both have quite strong melodic values in those tracks, which are usually the hardest parts to mix together, what you should do is maybe try and mix different parts of the tracks together that don't clash melodically. So mix in maybe a little intro of maybe a loop of maybe like a drum beat into maybe at the end of like a melodic part, and then you can maybe get an echo transition going. Alternatively, of course, you can just do like maybe a drop mix, something really simple. But what I'm trying to say is that I will never let key decide what song I mix next. Now, if I've got like 3 or 4 tracks that I'm choosing from and not sure which one I want to put on next, then I will kind of have a look at key. If there's a track that's the same key, that's the track that's going on, because it's going to be the best sounding. But if I think of a track and I go to that track and it's not the same key as the one that's currently on, I will never ever be determined away from that track, because there's no point of it. I will find a way to mix that track in and make it sound good, and you will not be able to tell realistically that the keys are different. Now, one thing I did get yesterday was I got a couple of questions off about key on my last video, the golden rule of DJing. This question is from Franco, so thank you for your message. You messaged me on Facebook. He said, how reliable do you think Rekordbox is for analysing the keys of songs? Now, I've never really thought about this, but it's quite a good point. I've never really kind of double questioned whether Rekordbox analyse the keys of tracks well. And to be honest with you, I couldn't tell you if it does or not. Now, one thing I will say about this is that try not to get caught up too much in the idea of keys, and like don't be second guessing especially second guessing Pioneer's Rekordbox software. If you really do think that maybe a track is out of key, then probably maybe try and analyze it through a different piece of software. I know there's mixed in key, there's different DJ softwares too. Run it through a different piece of software if you're really kind of unsure and you want to make sure. But to be honest with you, kind of just trust Rekordbox, what it says. Don't worry about it too much. I'm guessing Rekordbox would probably get it in and around that key anyway, so as long if you're sticking to the same key, it'll sound pretty harmonically sound together. The next question he had is, would you recommend using software like MixKey instead? If you really want to, then definitely you do that. I think MixKey is a paid software though, so I mean, if you want to pay to be 100% sure on your software, then go ahead. I personally wouldn't. I just trust what Rekordbox says, and I mixed from Rekordbox, the key system. I think it's fine. And this last question, which is probably the best question on here, is it says, is it necessary to mix in key for genres like tech house? Now this is the perfect question to end this video on. Is it necessary to mix in key in genres like tech house? Now, as you know, if you've seen some of my mixes, I mostly mix tech house, techno, disco, house. That's kind of my genres. Now, for them sort of genres, mixing in key is almost like completely unnecessary, because the strong part of those tracks is just drum loops, right? It's just drum loops over and over again. Then maybe, especially tech house, a couple of little noises, and then it's all good. Techno's even just a bass, and it'll have maybe some hi-hats built in at some point, and that's pretty much it. Now, if you're mixing EDM, bass house, future house, key can be a little bit more important. Like you saw the tracks that we just mixed a minute ago, them tracks were very kind of melodic bass. They had quite heavy piano points in there. those tracks are the ones that you really need to think about when you're mixing your key, because they can be very hard to mix together. They don't always sit harmonically well together, and it can sometimes sound displeasing to the ear. But bear that in mind, that there's always a way around mixing in key. You should never let it determine what song you play next. So to answer your question quickly, no, it doesn't matter. Key doesn't matter in genres like tech house and techno. Again, bear it in mind, if you're picking from 2 tracks, if you're not sure which one to put on, one's in key, put one on, the one that is in key on, because it's just going to sound harmonically a little bit better. But never let it determine what track you put on next. Anyway, thank you for watching today's video. Please let me know if you have anything you want to say about this mixed in key. Let me know if you mix in key as a rule, you always mix in key, or whether you just never mix in key, whether you don't even care what tracks keys are. I think it is very important to at least have an understanding of mixing in key, so that come to the right place, come to the right moment in the mix where you might need that key, at least you understand mixing in key. And even if you're choosing not to do it, at least you have an understanding of it. And at least sometimes if you do mix 2 tracks together that are out of key, you will understand why. And hopefully from building from that situation, you probably won't mix those 2 tracks together, and you'll probably understand that you maybe need to get a bit of a quicker mix on, or mix 2 parts of the tracks that mix well together. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure you leave any comments about any videos you would like to see from me. Thanks for watching this one. Thanks for subscribing. Make sure you do hit that notification bell and hit the like, so you don't miss any more tutorials or mixes or whatever. Thank you very much. I'll see you later.